All right. I'd like to call to order the Avalon City Council meeting of Tuesday, May 17th. If we would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could please have a few moments of silence for Javier Charoya. Please be seated. Devin, if we could please have the roll call.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Here.
Councilmember Lavelle?
Here.
Councilmember Ponce?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cassidy? Here. Mayor Marshall?
Here.
And for the record, Elizabeth Hull from BB&K, the City Attorney's Office, is joining us via Zoom tonight, as well as the City Treasurer in the audience.
Great, thank you. Do we have any announcements or written communications?
None from the city manager's office at this time.
None
Okay.
from the City Clerk.
Okay. Department head reports?
Good evening, Bob Greenlaw, Director of Public Works. Got one item tonight. Just want to remind the community that we have a special city council meeting scheduled for June 2nd at 5 p.m. to discuss with the community the Mole Phase 2 project and where we're at on the 95% set of plans for our design intent. So we're getting ready to go out for the design build RFP. And we'd like everybody to participate either here or virtually.
Okay. Thank you. And just, so on the Five Corners project, just a quick update on the utilities.
So it's a big, I mean, as far as the utility question, as far as that phase of it is the question. We did bid the project. We did receive one bid, and that bid was way out of the ballpark. Okay, and we're regrouping to rebid the project and maybe deliver just a different piece of it so that that it works out as far as budget and also the logistics of getting it done.
Okay.
Like any large capital project, they can be phased to meet budget or to meet whatever the circumstances. In this set of circumstances, that it's crazy out there as far as trying to bid a capital project, and even on the mainland right now, with prices and materials, you know, just the lack of capacity of, so all of that being said, then you put the island factor in, and so you've got to be able to pivot and be able to work whatever it is to get it done, to get it delivered. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
Any questions of Bob?
Thank you.
Okay, who's next?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Just a couple of quick updates for you. The casino dinghy dock has been temporarily removed for maintenance. The dock will have some new mooring attachments, which will allow for us to eventually add a small dock to it, which will incorporate a hand railing for easier access to that dock. We should have the work completed later this week. The Tuna Club dock was installed today, and the Hamilton Cove dock is scheduled for tomorrow, weather pending. We plan to install the club dinghy dock extensions the week prior to Memorial Day weekend, which is provide us some extra dock space during that heavy weekend. Here are the numbers since my last report, May 3rd. As everyone has probably noticed, the weekend traffic in the harbor has gotten considerably busier. Patrol moored 472 boats for a total of 1,878 nights. Patrol warned and advised 14 people of municipal code violations and did 143 security patrols of the marine facilities. We expect light to moderate southeast breezes throughout the week, but don't expect any of this weather to have any effect on the cruise ship tendering. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Any questions of our harbor master? We're good. Okay, thank you, Orrin.
Hello, city staff, mayor, council. Mike Wallagria, fire chief. In the month of April, we had 81 medical calls and ran 34 other fire type calls. County Fire was here last week. They did the fire breaks and they helped do Avalon Canyon. They did a few other spots throughout the island. The Edison's gonna have a helicopter here the next couple of days. If you get a call of them flying, they're checking and inspecting the lines and videoing stuff for that. Other than that, there's a lot of unstickered, unregistered old golf carts that code is working on ticketing. So there's a lot of them, so please come and renew your stickers or remove your vehicle if you don't have the proper permits to keep it. And that's it for me.
Questions? No, thank you.
Just a thanks on Steve's Steakhouse, and
Yes.
that response was fantastic, so thank you. And then also, if we could just talk, Mikey, after about looking at, we've talked a few times with the South Coast Air Quality Management District about doing a cash for clunkers, and a lot of those old golf carts would likely fall into that space and have never been approved before. So hopefully we can see if we can get some level of approval to be able to do that and get some things shipped off the island as opposed to just recycling into the community over and over again.
They are already working on 7 or 8 that should be gone soon.
Awesome, thank you.
Right.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, Captain Joe Badali, and I just want to report on the crash we had over in Sumner, and that was on Thursday early evening, and the driver of that vehicle was arrested for driving under the influence, which leads, and the folks that were party to that crash were injured but not seriously, so we're grateful for that. But the driver was arrested and booked for felony DUI with injury to the other parties. We've increased our efforts as well of continual abuse of alcohol. We've had an increase in number of drunken public arrests and open containers. So we know with increased visitors and increased population, warm temps, that people may be inclined to drink more, and we're just asking for greater cooperation and being more responsible, both for the restaurants as well as the parties and folks involved that are visiting with us. And we are all ramped up for Memorial Day weekend with all the events. We have reserve deputies coming both Memorial Day weekend, and we also are planning out for 4th of July and having, good and successful events, and that's all I have.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, Council. Matt Baker, Finance Director. Visitor-driven revenue reports available on the city's website. I'm happy to report that the strong revenues continue through March. March's TOT was up 50% from pre-COVID TOT levels. And probably more notably even was cross-channel wharfage for the month of March. It was up 40% from pre-COVID March of 2019. July through February, so for most of the year, our wharfage revenues had been up about 2%, which we'd only budgeted it to be about 90% of pre-COVID levels, so it was still stronger compared to budget. But we hadn't seen the same kind of double-digit revenue growth in wharfage as we had in the other revenues, but March proved to be a particularly strong month in that department, so hopefully the last quarter of the year continues with those trends. At the April 19th meeting, I provided a range as far as what revenue estimates looked like for the last quarter of the fiscal year, and I think with some confidence I can say we're going to end up somewhere near the higher end of that range. So that's certainly positive as far as reserves heading into the next fiscal year. The last thing, and this is more on the AV side of the world, is this is our first meeting where we're streaming on YouTube. So I don't know if I stole Devin's thunder, but in order to get the YouTube URL. We need 100 followers, so please like and subscribe our YouTube page. And that way we can we're going for youtube.com/City of Avalon, but you need a certain number of subscribers before we can make that happen. So the link to it is on the agenda, but we're hoping to get that name cleaned up. So far so good. To the 7 people watching right now on YouTube, welcome.
Is it all your family members?
What is it? What is the URL again?
The URL is on the first page of the agenda package. It's got a number of letters and numbers going in.
Oh, there it is.
Um,
Okay.
So we're trying to get some subscribers or followers to be able to change that to an easier to follow link. So
Yeah.
Do we plan on advertising that like on our Facebook pages or anything like that?
We definitely can do that.
Good idea.
We're just trying to make sure this meeting, we can get it to run smoothly and then get the word out once we proved we could do it. Other than that, I'll be presenting later tonight on kind of a draft of where we're at as far as the CIP plan for next year. I think at the last meeting I'd mentioned discussing sewer, saltwater, and solid waste at this meeting. I decided to flip the order just given kind of the volume of some of our big CIP plans for next year. I thought it might make sense to talk about that one and to provide council a little more time to look at the CIP plan for next year. And so that was kind of the last minute switch, but we will be talking about the sewer, saltwater, solid waste, as well as any of the major changes we've made to the budget since the prior 2 presentations at the June 8th council meeting, and that's on the Wednesday there. That's all I have.
Great. We'll see you in a little while.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Old Man Rugby came back on May 7th and was a success. They will be coming back next year and have inspired other sports to come to the island. I'm currently in talks with Old Man Soccer and also with Old Man Basketball to create annual events here on the island. We also are having talks with the Major League Rugby team, the LA Giltinis, about doing a preseason training here and a camp. So we're in early talks right now with that. Our first city-run youth sports is finally back with T-ball this last Saturday. We had 50 kids signed up and participated, including one of our stars right over here, Lucius. Hey, Lucius. They are being taught the fundamentals and will work up to playing to the game. We want to thank Austin Henry of Avalon Smart Homes for sponsoring the T-ball hats and is offering free printing of the participants' names on the back of their jerseys for free. New season of karate classes is starting in June, and she's looking at starting adult classes in there as well as adult kick aerobic classes and hopefully moving into kickboxing for those who might be interested. Summer day camp is open for registration. It's from 9 to 3 p.m. Every day throughout the summer. It is filled with arts and crafts. We've collaborated with the Conservancy for access to the interior and education on the island. We've been collaborating with the Island Company on excursions to harbors, undersea tours, and camping trips, plus fun-filled field and beach days. The camp is only $18 a day or $72 for a week, which is 5 days at the cost of 4. Sign up now because space is limited. Remember, there is also still some space left for the Prime Timer event coming up on May 25th. It's an excursion including lunch at the airport. It's just $10 for the whole lunch. That's including it's $10 for the whole trip. That's including your lunch. You just make sure you contact me at City Hall because we do just have a few spots left. Last, we have Memorial Day, May 30th. We are sponsoring an event for our veterans on the island. We are giving them a free brunch at Machine Gun Park. So if you're looking to get a seat as one of the local veterans, you would contact Commander Richard Huban. If you are just a veteran and you're a veteran who's going to be visiting the island, Pancake Cottage will be doing a 50% off for veterans there, but they are sponsoring the meal for our veterans at Machine Gun Park. Do you have any questions?
No, great.
That's it. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm sorry, I forgot my cue to give you a few quick announcements. Meet the Candidates Night is sponsored by the Catalina Islander and will be in the City Council chambers on Tuesday, May 24th at 5 p.m. The next regular City Council meeting that is usually that would have been scheduled for Tuesday, June 7th, has been rescheduled to Wednesday, June 8th to accommodate the election. Election day is Tuesday, June 7th. The polling place will be the Catalina Country Club, located at 1 Country Club Drive. The election center will be open from June 4th to June 6th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. On election day, June 7th, it'll be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The last day to register to vote is May 23rd. You can go to lavote.net to register, as well as to check on your registration status. And all of the information that I just provided can be found on the City of Avalon's election website, our election page. It's cityofavalon.com/2022 election. And then lastly, as Matt mentioned, tonight's the first time the city is using YouTube to live stream our meeting, as well as Zoom for the members of the public to participate virtually. Members of the public that wish to participate remotely can utilize the Zoom link found or the call-in information located on our agenda page. Similar to e-comments, you have to register before you're able to comment. We are monitoring the email address ask@cityofavalon.com as well. Or as you can see, the chambers are open, so members of the public are welcome and encouraged to come up here and participate in person. That's all.
Great, well, thank you very much.
I just wanted to say something about the election in that LA County notified me that my ballot had been mailed, and they give you a way of tracking your ballot once you receive it and when you send it back and all of that. I just think that's really cool.
They called you.
They didn't call me, no, I got a text. I did get a text that it was
okay.
mailed, but I got an email saying that my ballot had been mailed. So it was I just think that's really cool.
I got one that said it was mailed on June 9th, and I still have not received it.
Oh, you haven't?
No, so.
Then you need to contact them.
I know. So, city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. Just wanted a couple things. Had a conversation today with LA County Child Support Services, and we are in the process of making arrangements with them. They're going to come back to the island starting in June, hold monthly representatives here available to our residents, and they're also trying to work with LA County Social Services to bring them along, so they'll both come at the same time to make it easier on our residents to be able to communicate with them rather than going over town. As soon as we get these dates and times, we'll certainly post them on the website and make them known on all social media pages with the city. We're happy to have them start that back up, though. I would also indicate that we have prepared an informational flyer for bicyclists coming over to the island, and by we I mean Devin prepared that flyer, and that flyer is going to be something that we are going to work with the Express to hand out to anybody that is bringing a bike over, whether it's an electric bike or a regular bike, as far as where they can ride, where they cannot ride, requirement to wear helmets, bringing attention to our city codes to all of them. It's our first step in trying to get a handle on the bikes that on occasion have been problems, but I'm not sure that we have ways of regulating them that won't be too intrusive, and we're trying this first.
That's a great idea.
And then finally, I just wanted to indicate, I spoke with Steve from Steve's Steakhouse over the weekend, and just wanted to indicate, again, I know it's already been mentioned, thanking and recognizing our fire department, but he did say to me how thankful he was because of the number of alarm calls they've had over the years, and he said every time the fire department comes down and treats it seriously, and they always try to tell them, nope, it's just a smoke alarm, no big deal, and every time they treat it seriously, and this time they really needed them, and how they handled this so professionally, and how little damage they did to his property, and how he was back open by Friday, and he was so thankful for that, and our entire fire department was down there and should be commended by the way they handled that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
A quick question. For the bike flyers, are we also extending that over to the flyer?
Yes.
Not just, okay.
Yes.
Does city attorney have anything to say? Elizabeth?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Oh, excellent. No, I do not have a report this evening, other than it is just a pleasure to see you all. It's been a long time.
Yes, you too. Okay. Council member reports.
Anybody? I'll go first. I did just want to remind everyone that the Catalina Island Women's Forum is hosting a meet and greet with Sukasa. That is actually today, 7 through 9 p.m. at the Catholic Church. And they're doing 2 tomorrow, so Wednesday, May 18th, 8 to 9 a.m., also at the Catholic Church for the morning, and 5 p.m. at the Avalon School Library.
Wow, great.
And this last weekend was my seminar, educational seminar. Of course, it was a great time. I met so many great people, and I was given the opportunity to be on the executive board once again. So
Great.
this year, thanks to the council member, Jeff Wood. So he's the president this year, so thank you, Jeff. But I'm going to be the chair ambassador and the chair ambassador committee,
Great.
which is exciting. Thank you. I'm very
Yes.
excited.
What to do?
Lisa?
Just had a few calls and meetings regarding broadband over the last couple of weeks. Lots of movement, nothing reportable yet. We'll be attending the CPUC's last mile broadband meeting on June 1st. And there were also a couple of meetings just recommended to city staff for additional funding, including hopefully some Department of Highway and Transportation funds that we may potentially be eligible for. So crossing our fingers there. And yeah, otherwise that's it.
So is there a way that we can contact Elon Musk about a satellite?
On Twitter.
He has, yeah.
He's busy buying Twitter.
Not on Twitter yet.
I know, but I
He
mean,
has Starlink, and I know that there are some people using Starlink already on the island. I've heard mixed reviews regarding how often it's up or down and how busy it is based on demand right now, so.
oh, that's his?
Starlink is his, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so, I know that there are a couple people that use it or use it for backup, so, but it's all satellite based, and so it would need to have satellites working properly and functioning over the island to make it work well, so.
I don't know how you
Possibly,
get a
but-
satellite up there and how it stays there.
They use SpaceX, he has his own thing.
Okay, so he could do one just for us.
He has rockets.
They move,
Yeah.
they rotate, yeah, they move around, yeah, so it's
Oh.
not just for us unfortunately, but,
Oh.
there's a good amount of movement hopefully forward, so hopefully we'll have some more updates soon and be able to, a lot of different parts of it, both undersea fiber, which is considered middle mile, and, fiber to the premises, which is considered last mile, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad, and Cindy, you're involved in that too. Thank you
Mhm.
very much. That's awesome.
I got nothing.
Okay, same meetings with Lisa, broadband related. I do want to let the community know that this weekend's scheduled Avalon Community Theater presentation has been postponed. The new dates will be June 4th, 5th, and 6th, which are a Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. 7 p.m. Saturday, 4:30 matinee on Sunday, and a 7 p.m. on Monday. But again, no Friday this particular go. And I also want to not only recognize the fire department for the fire last week, but I was actually sitting in my office and smelled smoke and then heard the little beeps of the fire trucks, and I thought, well, shoot, my building's on fire. I guess I better get out. But upon rolling up on the scene in the alleyway, within minutes, both fire departments were mobilized, sheriffs were mobilized, but also every trade person on the island who does things for Steve's, or even those that don't, rolled up very quickly. Half of the Edison crew was just on the spot, and it was really awesome to see not only how quickly our departments work, but also just the local tradesmen as well. So that was really cool, and I just wanted to recognize everybody for caring enough about the small community to be there just in case they might be needed. So that's all I got.
I just want to remind everybody about Measure SS and Measure T that are on the ballot. As you know, the 0.25% sales tax would come directly to the city, and better we get it than the county, and that would get us up to the max, which is 10%. And like I feel, most of the people buy groceries here, and groceries are not taxed. So I don't know that it would affect our pocketbooks that much. And then the other measure is for and there seems to be misunderstandings or whatever. It's a 1% increase in the TOT, which is paid for by the people in the hotels and in the vacation rentals. 100% of that 1% comes to the city of Avalon so that we can get some more money. I know we're doing good. We love hearing what Matt has to say. However, the more money we get, the more money we can get other things done in town. Because people look around town, see the town looks dirty, there's weeds, there's all kinds of stuff going on, and we just don't have the resources to take care of those. So I don't know if I personally was supposed to plug this, but I did anyway. Did you want to make a
I just wanted to make a comment on that. I think it's very important that the community understand that raising the sales tax, it's better for us to raise it than what the county getting it, because the county will raise it and they will get it and we won't get it back. So that it's very important that we do vote for the sales tax.
Right.
And TOT is only for 10 years, and putting that into the city's coffers to help, especially with infrastructure that needs to be done. So
No, thank you. Also, I'll be doing minutes with the mayor. Tomorrow will be very brief. And also, I'm very excited. I want to thank the council for all the support in our 3 grand marshals for the parade. I spoke with them all today. A couple of them were a little reluctant, but I didn't have to twist their arm. But Rudy Pilch, so that it's Enjoy Catalina by Air, Land, and Sea. So the air will be shared. The grand marshal will be Paul Moritz. The land will be Rudy Pilch, who worked for the Island Company for probably over 30 years. Paul Moritz worked 33 years up at the airport in the sky. And Jay Guyan will be our land grand marshal. And I think that,
C. Jay Guyan.
Who'd I say?
Oh, you said land, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jay Guyan is C.
C, yes, thank you. And their business has been theirs for, I think, 96 years. So David Hart's going to be reaching out to them and doing interviews with them, so those will be in the paper in the future. And we're excited about them accepting. So thank you all for supporting that.
And then I also just got a message from somebody, if I could.
Sure.
And I also just got a message to remind everyone that June 18th, all day long, will be Avalon Pride. There'll be DJs, service clubs will be doing things, beer garden, and hopefully arts and crafts too, with the Art Association.
Sweet.
So put that on your calendar. It's that Saturday, June 18th.
Okay. Seems like there was something else, but that's okay. We'll move along. Oral communications. This is an opportunity for people in the audience to speak on items that are not on the agenda. You'll be limited to 2 minutes, and no action will be taken. Right, now they're running to the podium. Paul beat ya.
I'm using 30 seconds to laugh at everybody. Hello, it's been a while since I've been here. Paul Birchall, Avalon Library. Nice to see you all. Just some general announcements, because things are changing a little bit at the library. I'm very excited. Our hours have changed slightly. We're now open later on Wednesdays. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays we're open till 8. Thursday, Friday, Saturday we close at 6, but I'm pleased to offer later hours because I've had a lot of people saying they want to come, but they work till about 5 or 6, and now they can come till 8 on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Also want to announce, very pleased, starting in mid-June, I've been given the okay to start my programs again. So after a long time being locked up like, a lighthouse keeper, I am very excited. I'm going to start doing my story time in mid-June, probably Saturdays at around 11 o'clock. We're going to do a weird thing. I'm following another library's lead where they throw out a bunch of carpets and everybody's spaced and things like that, but we'll get it done. That's going to be starting mid-June. I'm also starting to have the okay to do outside performers again. I've got a juggler magician, Michael Rayner, who's coming in June. Very very exciting, a cooking display coming in July, and Emmy Lamb, an origami expert who's come out to the island many times before, coming in August. The Friends of the Library don't realize it, but they're going to sponsor 3 other ones, probably magicians and stuff like that. They don't know yet. Also, going to keep going this tradition of having crafts Tuesdays and Saturdays, because that's a long-standing tradition. I've been doing them in bags. Still going to do that. Tuesday, Saturday, and then the museum does one on Thursday, so you can do crafts all week long if you want. The Summer Discovery Program I'm going to be starting very early in June. Read a couple books, come get a prize, and getting some incentives and things through the mail. Also, really quickly, in addition to Discover and Go, which is the library program available at lacountylibrary.org, Discover and Go lets you go to museums around town. The Catalina Museum is a participant. You can log on to Discover and Go, enter your library card, get a free pass once a month to the museum. We have also received a grant from the California State Library to have a pass to the California State Park. I just have one pass. It's available for checkout. You'd hang it, you'd drive up to a park and put it on the dashboard, and you don't have to pay entry to the state park. Not for national park. It won't do Yosemite, but it will do the state parks.
Wow.
Also, as the election's coming up, just want to remind everybody that our vote by mailbox is right in front of the library. It's open and available. The Register Recorder's Office sends somebody out, seems to be once a week to empty it at this time. So your ballot is safe, locks right up. Nice thin, it's a thin thing, so no nasty people can put ice cream and stuff in it. So it's very safe. Also, the library is going to be participating in Avalon Pride, June 18th. I've been in the meetings. Not quite sure what we're doing yet. I know there's one craft that we're getting for sure, and I'm going to work on another presentation there as well.
Great.
Thank you very much for your...
Well, thank you. I don't know if Devin had you on the 2-minute timer or not, but...
I'm sure I yapped much longer than 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a lot of good information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and I like the size print, too.
Yeah. Watch your step on the way down, Kaylin.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Be careful there.
Yeah.
Lindsay, Sarah and I were just having this conversation minutes before the meeting.
Oh, okay.
So I'm excited for your
All
presentation.
right, and I'm going to start with something that I don't want my time to count for. I heard a rumor that I want to make sure that everybody knows is not true, that the Long Beach Unified School District had bought the Windjammer, and they were going to make apartments for teachers. That is not true. The construction company that's here redoing the school bought the Windjammer apartment, and then they have their dudes fix it up in the evenings, and they're going to flip it when they leave. So it would have been smarter for the district to do that, but they didn't. So anyway, just want to make sure that rumor doesn't undo everything I'm saying here. Okay. I have some disturbing statistics to share. This year, our school will lose 1/3 of the teachers. 2 of our veteran teachers are retiring, but most are transferring to positions on the mainland. We're losing our principal, again, our librarian of 20 years, and a renowned teacher coach who has been at the school 33 years will be retiring. We will lose 2 of our 9 elementary teachers, 4 of our 5 middle school teachers, 3 teachers on our high school staff, and 3 of our 6 special education teachers. Research tells us teacher turnover is common, especially in rural tourist communities where housing is problematic. This year, it has become possible for new teachers to be able to transfer to the mainland after only 1 year at our school, which has exacerbated the turnover issue. Turnovers sever the relationships formed between teachers and their students as well as parents. The students' academic support system is weakened. Losing teachers makes it difficult to maintain a school learning climate and community. Recruiting qualified staff and training new staff can be time-consuming. We train the new teachers only for them to move on. Research also tells us teachers choose to stay in a community at higher rates when they have a strong sense of connectedness resulting from having been made to feel welcome and part of the community. We need to ask ourselves, how can we make our incoming teachers feel welcome? One obvious answer is if they want to live on the island, find them homes. The elementary staff is more stable because these new teachers have found housing and are engaging in our community. Some teachers and support staff will be unable to live here due to having families and homes on the mainland. We can also make them feel more welcome by providing affordable overnight accommodations if boats are canceled and when school activities occur in the evenings. The last time a boat was canceled, 19 staff were off campus. Few substitutes live here. Unfortunately, the teachers who live here must cover for the missing staff. There are approximately 10 canceled boats in a year when learning is lost.
To be continued.
Paula Patterson, 221 Whitley, Part 2.
Yeah.
There are approximately 10 canceled boats in a year when learning is lost. At one time, the Curtin family allowed teachers to stay for free in their hotel when the boats were canceled to give back to the community. Perhaps some hotels in town might volunteer to do the same now. Designated teacher housing would be the most obvious long-term solution. The hospital has some 30 units of housing to assure that our medical staff is accommodated. The Conservancy, the Island Company, our Sheriff, Fire, and Baywatch organizations all have designated worker housing. I spoke to the council, that's not me, that's Lindsay. I spoke to the council years ago concerning the East Whitley property being used as designated teacher housing. Is this a possibility? Currently, when new teachers arrive, they're already overworked office staff at the school must scramble to try to locate housing for these teachers. Every year it is more difficult due to the designated housing already being taken by other entities and the great increase in short-term rentals in recent years, as you know. Winter rentals, more common in the past, are rare now because the season begins in March and ends in October, according to CIVR. Could the council make an appeal to the community's property owners and businesses to designate an empty apartment or room to be rented only by teachers? As some of you are campaigning, perhaps you could mention the dire need for teacher housing. The council could also appeal to LBUSD to assign an experienced, strong principal and mentors to support the many new hires. As we speak, the next year's prospective teachers are being interviewed. 2 teachers are already searching for housing. Interviewers encourage them to consider moving to the island. However, the district no longer requires this as part of the hiring process. Imagine how many more teachers would choose to move here if the interviewer could say, affordable housing is available.
Yeah.
My name is Tina Newhard. I was a commuting teacher at Avalon School for 7 years, and I want to talk to the council this evening about the hardship for commuting teachers and the need for supporting the commuting teachers and the teachers who live here. There's the early morning 6 o'clock boat every day. There's late evenings getting off the boat after 5 o'clock. My personal workday was 13 hours long. There were mandatory overnights. Tomorrow is open house, and the commuting teachers must stay unreimbursed somewhere on the island because there will be no boat to take them home when it's done. I was able to make this work because I made wonderful friends who let me stay at their home whenever I needed. I could stay after school meetings, which I know now are in the morning. I could stay on back to school night and open house when there was no boat available. I could stay late when there were parent conferences and make it easier for the community members to meet with me rather than me saying, no, you have to come before 3 o'clock because I'm getting on a boat. I could stay when it looked like the boats were going to cancel the next day, and there were many times when I was the only commuting teacher on campus. Our teachers want to be part of the community. I know when I got off the boat and when I went into Vaughn's this afternoon, I had so many greetings. Maestra, Maestra, it's so nice to see you. There were 1-year contracts due to economic difficulties with the district when I started in Avalon. And I was very fortunate to be able to come back a 2nd year and the 3rd year. Then there was requirements for 3 years, but now I understand it's going back to 1, and it's just, it's hard to make those connections when you're only going to be here for 1 year. And it's going to hurt the town. So I hope that the council will do what they can to support the teachers, the school, and the students who are the future of Avalon.
Thank you very much. It's not that we don't hear, this isn't a time for engagement, but I mean, we all understand, stand the dilemma, but we can talk this on it. We can all talk of this at another time and tell you what perhaps we may be able to help with.
And
So
thank you for everything you do and committing yourself to our community. Can't thank you enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Get it together. Good afternoon, evening, Madam Mayor Marshall, Avalon Council, City of Avalon. My name is Reverend William Moses Somerville, and I am running to be your 42nd Congressional Representative for United States House of Representatives. I have learned that congressional candidates don't come here, so let this be a first. So you all are participating in Black history already, so I welcome them. But with that said, I come with the simple message that politicians should have people at the top of their political agenda. And that is our campaign motto, mantra, and message, and that is to serve the people. Given evidence of what was just shared, you all need some help. And so I'm here to help. And so I serve as a father, husband, pastor, veteran, academic, and also hospice chaplain. My name is not in politics, my name is in service. And so if you want a congressional representative to represent you and to serve you, I'm your guy. Come vote June 7th, which is also my birthday, so I welcome that birthday present. Also, we could even celebrate here to give credence and show that the city of Avalon will not be ignored and make their presence felt, most specifically in this upcoming primary. You get me out of this primary into the general, I guarantee you we will take it from there. So thank you. Once again, my name is Reverend William Moses Somerville. I'm running for Congress in California's 42nd Congressional District, and I ask for your vote because we are here to serve the people. Thank you.
And thank you very much.
Thank you for making the trip.
Well, we have some inspirational speakers today, don't we? Anybody else? Okay. We will be removing the presentation to Will Richards this evening. So now we will move to the Finance Director, Matthew Baker. Okay. I know.
Take it first.
Thanks, Gina. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. This is my third of what will be 4 budget study sessions, kind of in preparation for the upcoming fiscal year 23 budget. The focus again on this meeting is going to be on our capital improvement plan. I just want to caveat this presentation how I have the other two. This is still a working document. Bob, Dave, and myself, as well as the department heads, are meeting on a seemingly daily basis to go over what the CIP plan looks like for next year. When we have a full budget to present, we'll highlight any of the significant changes that have come since this meeting. But I just want to caveat that we're still working on presenting the final budget. And this is really just a draft to show you where we're at and where we're thinking as far as priority projects for the upcoming fiscal year. And again, it's a working document, and we'll continue to update and evolve as we get it ready to present. So our capital improvement program, or our CIP plan, it's a planning document that we use to identify all capital projects anticipated in the next 10 fiscal years. So again, not necessarily every project will have spend or activity in the current budget year, but the goal of the document is to be an all-encompassing document of where our plans and priorities are, at least as we see them today, for the next 10 years. So we do have some projects in our CIP plan that might not have any dollar spend anticipated in the next year, but what we're trying to do is really build out this document as a one place to go to see where we've identified future needs. And so that way, if there's a grant opportunity or another type of opportunity that presents itself, we already have a plan in place that shows what projects are needed in the community. Again, a CIP project would be any construction project or major purchase of equipment, and the dollar threshold we use is $5,000. We update this document annually, and the first year of spend in the budget is rolled into the budget that is adopted. But again, it's really a planning document as well, where we're trying to anticipate capital needs over a 10-year period. Some of the sources of how the plans come into this document are either through a master plan or another planning document. So for example, the Five Corners project was identified or outlined in an active transportation plan, I believe. We also have projects that get into the CIP plan because it's a reaction to a need or an opportunity. So for example, the Crescent Avenue stairs, which we'll talk about later, is identified as a reaction to a need, as in there's some structural issues that we need to address there. Or the per capita grant you could think of as an opportunity. We had the ability to pursue some grant funds that could be going towards parks, and those projects came into our CIP plan in response to that opportunity. Then lastly, also input from council as well as the community. If there are projects that are a priority, even if we don't necessarily have the money to spend in the current year, but there is a consensus among council that we should be planning for and pursuing opportunities, those are the types of things we would like to see included in this CIP document. Even if we're not necessarily going to do the project this year or next year, it helps us project and plan long term if we can get those documents in one place, or those ideas or those concepts in one place. And so that's really the goal of the CIP program. It's a working document, and it's kind of one of my goals to work with Bob in the upcoming fiscal year to kind of put a little more detail behind the skeleton that we have currently of the CIP plan. So what I have here on this slide is a list of all the projects in the current year budget that had $50,000 or more budgeted. There are quite a number of projects in our CIP plan, and so I've tried to really just hone in on the larger ones, at least from a finance perspective. But if there are projects outside of these lists that are in the CIP plan, we can definitely talk about those as well. So in the current year, the two big projects we had in the general fund CIP plan related to the Pebbly Beach Road riprap repairs, as well as the Five Corner pedestrian project. Both of those we anticipated going into construction in the current year. We really haven't seen that, and so a lot of those spend that we had planned in the current year is really going to get rolled into the next fiscal year. Similarly with Crescent Avenue stairs, that's another project that is a priority for us that was in the current year budget, but likely we won't see the construction spend until after the next fiscal year, so July and onwards. JMF improvements, we do in our capital plan are paying back monies we borrowed for the JMF field installation. We have 2 years left on that repayment, but that is also included in this list. The city park improvements, those are the 4 projects that Dave Hart, I think, has presented previously to council. The one that we are looking to complete in the current year is the Lovers Cove Park improvements, that parklet improvement. And then we're also, I believe, coming to before Planning Commission either in this meeting or the meeting in June with more information on the shade structures being proposed along Front Street that are part of that project. Again, the Whitley remodel was included in this year's budget, but we're anticipating most of the construction spend to happen next fiscal year, and so those unspent funds are rolling forward. And similarly, with our CDBG funds we had in this current year's budget, monies for ADA projects that we have not spent anything this year, but that project we are looking to spend those funds in the next upcoming fiscal year. Mole Phase 2, since we're having a whole meeting on June 2nd dedicated to Mole Phase 2, I'm going to try not to spend too much time tonight talking about Mole Phase 2, but it is by far the largest CIP project we have in the plans for next year, as we anticipate that project entering into construction. So as you can see in the current year, we have spent $200,000, and that was further developing the plans to go out for bid. The other projects down the list are the major CIP projects in the harbor. As you can see, floats, I believe it was 2 and 3 we had sent over town to get rehabbed, and those came in at $254,000 from the budgeted $260,000. As well as the end float, I believe, is completed as well since it's in the water, unless there's an invoice outstanding. That came in $82,000 against the $95,000 we had budgeted for those improvements to that float. Again, lastly, this is the CIP plans we had for sewer, saltwater, and solid waste. The solid waste was just a transfer to the city's trust fund, but again, I have that tracked in our CIP. And I believe at the last meeting, we approved some additional expenditures in the sewer fund for some planned improvements there.
So let me ask a question real quick. And for the congressman in the audience, because we are a rural low-income community, we really get gypped when it comes to infrastructure money because it's based on per capita and our population is so low. And if you're hearing these numbers, where it's very difficult without something changing. But so I have a question. So, but some of these, for example, some of this has grant money attached to it, like Mole Phase 2, right?
Correct.
So, and the restrooms, the grant is like $900,000 or something just for the restrooms? Something like that? Is that what the grant is, Bob?
So
How much did we get for the restrooms for the mole upstairs? Or the mole bathrooms?
So on Mole Phase 2, currently we have about $9 million in grant funds lined up, and we'll go through it in more detail on the June 2nd meeting. I don't think, I don't have the budget breakdown of what is assigned to what. I think there's still some, I think that's still being worked out.
None of this includes grants. This is just
This
saying
is
what
just
it's
from the
going to cost
expenditure
us.
side.
It's
Yeah.
going to cost us. Okay.
So on this list, the grant-funded projects would be the pump-out dock, as well as Mole Phase 2. The other remaining projects are funded by our wharfage that we dedicate to capital projects.
Right, okay.
So this is a slide I kind of wanted to focus on the most, and this is kind of what we have right now planned for the upcoming fiscal year as far as capital projects. And this is just projects with monies allocated in the next fiscal year to them, or at least as of the current draft of the CIP plan. What I've tried to do is break the projects kind of into two categories, and I use the terms planning and construction to separate them. So we have a number of projects where we are setting monies aside to do preliminary engineering and planning documents, permitting, things of that nature. Because in order to be competitive when we pursue those grant funds, it's very helpful to already come in with a kind of defined set of plans and scope for the project. And so we do have a number of projects. A couple examples would be for the Bonita Stairs or the Burma retaining wall. We do have some monies planned in the upcoming fiscal year to do some preliminary planning for those as potential future CIP construction projects. Other general fund planning type projects I have included in those 7. So if we're right now on the first row to the left, also include planning documents for workforce housing. Housing is definitely a need on the island, and so we do have some grant funds that we are going to be using towards looking into some preliminary planning for where there's some potential sites to build. Other planning projects are maintenance yard upgrades, so we're looking potentially in the future to do some improvements to the Public Works garage, but we really need to have some plans defined before we can kind of go further with those projects. Going down to the harbor, some of the ones that are just in the planning stage, so not necessarily any construction anticipated next year, would include dinghy dock pier repairs or replacement, as well as the club dock floats themselves. We have some monies to put some plans together, as well as for the South Beach seawall and sand replenishment projects. We're currently we're planning to include in the budget that we'll present some monies set aside to be able to work on some planning documents related to those projects. So that way we'll be able to, in the future, pursue grant opportunities potentially for those. On the construction side, and again, I'm going to be focusing on the general fund and the sewer fund because, as you can see from a spend standpoint, those are the largest 2, but I'm happy to talk about the others as well. In the general fund, from a construction side, the 6 projects we're speaking of are 5 Corners and the Pebbly Beach Road riprap are the 2 largest. And of that $3.2 million right now in planned spend, about 2.6 of it would relate to those 2 projects. And so those really 2 are the largest projects, at least as far as general fund. Included in the $3.2 million also is about $200,000 for the per capita grant projects. So again, that's $200,000 we're going to be spending on that, but we're going to be getting back about $170,000 in grant funds. But we do put, as far as the number there, the total spend as far as the expenditure side. So that's before factoring any grant funds. The 4th large project in the construction of those 6 for the general fund would be monies for the Crescent Hillside repairs. The 5th would be some monies for the cemetery improvements. And then the last one, just because I really didn't have a category for it, is the JMF loan repayment. Yep.
I was just going to ask that question, and as I was writing it, I think I maybe heard the answer to it. Is the Crescent Avenue stairs the project name for the hillside repair?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So then in the harbor, the main projects that we'd kind of shown on the previous slide relate to the end float repairs, the repairs to floats 4 and 5 planned for next year, as well as the green pier repairs and the pump out dock, which is grant funded, and the underground fuel tank. Those are the larger ones, and I have some slides, so we're going to discuss those in more detail. But some of the smaller projects that make up that 12 also include anchor chain replacement. We generally spend about $20,000 replacing the anchor chains in the harbor, and we have a kind of a plan as needed. Camera upgrades in the harbor. Right now we have $15,000 planned in next year's budget for those camera upgrades, as well as we have about $50,000 for the harbor building on the pier. I've been told it leaks when it rains. Fortunately, it hasn't rained too much this year, but we do have some monies we're looking at for roof repairs there, as well as new paint on that building, and there's about $50,000 for that project. So those are some of the smaller projects. The larger projects, what I've done, and later in this presentation, is kind of highlighted them out so we can look at what the spend is right now anticipated for those projects. So the 7 projects I decided to pull out and spend a little more time talking about tonight are listed on this slide. Mole Phase 2, as I mentioned, is the largest project, but because we have the June 2nd meeting, I thought it would make more sense to focus on some of the other large projects we have at this meeting. So the 7 I've pulled out are the Crescent Avenue stairs, and that's the hillside repairs along Crescent Avenue, the Pebbly Beach riprap repairs, the 5 Corners pedestrian project, the 206 East Whitley remodel, Green Pier repairs, pump out dock, and the underground fuel tank. And the reason I chose those 7 is really they all fit into either one of 2 categories. They either have significant grant funding that has certain timing and deadline requirements, or they represent significant needs to the community as far as public safety. And so those are the kind of the 2 criteria of how they made the list to present tonight. What I have on this slide, and this is to kind of also help council as they look at the CIP plan document of how to read it. You can really divide each project plan kind of into half. The first half of the page is really a summary of what the project is. And these project summary pages, we are working with Public Works to provide more additional information on there. But again, this is in a draft stage, but I wanted to kind of show how to read this document. So the first half of our project sheet will break down what the project number is, the title of the project, what fund it's coming out of, whether development impact fees can be used to help pay for it, as well as who the project manager or main contact at the city is, the year it was identified, and the anticipated completion date for the project. So you can see the Crescent Avenue stairs, hillside repairs. The project description is a stabilization of the hillside below the stairs and removal of loose rock and debris from the hillside, and the justification for its public safety. So the goal is for each project we have in the CIP plan to have a description explaining what the project is, as well as a justification for why the project is in the schedule and why we're recommending or planning to spend funds for that project. The second half of each CIP detail sheet is kind of a breakdown of where the anticipated spending is for the project over the next 10 years. So the first third, if you will, of this schedule is a breakdown of the spend. So you can see for Crescent Avenue stairs, prior to this current fiscal year, we had already spent $7,500 on planning related documents for it. And we've spent a further $3,700 this year on planning related documents for the project, with a further $13,000 anticipated next year on design related expenditures, with $250,000 right now in the plan as far as project cost for construction related expenditures.
Let me just ask a quick question. When you say the money that's been spent for design or whatever, does some of that include like our staff time in that, or is that just outside people?
This is just outside people.
Okay.
So in most of these, it would be with our engineering consultant, but there may be some other expenditures associated for some of the projects. The middle line, if you will, is the operating budget, and this is an area where I need to work with Bob to fill out for some of the projects. But the idea behind it is if we are adding new infrastructure to the city, we also need to make sure we are planning ongoing maintenance costs when we do pursue that. So if we were to add a new building, for example, there are certain costs to maintain that new building or that new piece of equipment. And so if we are adding a new project, we also need to be planning to add to the maintenance and operating budgets for those new assets to make sure we're maintaining them and planning for that maintenance when we cost out a project. Because we could get a situation where we have grant funds and can afford to, say, build the new building, but the cost to maintain the new building or the new piece of equipment, are greater than maybe it's we desire. And then the third section down there is if it's grant funded, kind of a breakdown of what the grant funding revenue is. So for the Crescent Avenue stairs, there wouldn't be any grant funding, so we would be looking at a total project cost of about $275,000 for the hillside repairs, and those would be all coming from the general fund without any grant revenues associated. So the next project on the list is the Pebbly Beach riprap repairs. And again, similarly going down the list, you can see it's an infrastructure project. It's coming out of the city's infrastructure fund, Fund 105. That's a general fund, but we separate some of the major CIP into its own sub-fund. The Public Works Director is the project manager, and the estimated completion date, at least on this draft right now, is June 30 of 23. This is right now a grant-funded project up to $1 million with a 25% match. And so to date, we have spent about $200,000 on design engineering related expenditures on the Pebbly Beach Riprap project. And we are looking next year into going into actual construction for the repairs. And how we plan to build this out, and again, this is a working document, is that as monies become available and as future grants become available, we can phase this project similarly to how we're talking about phasing Mole Phase 2, where if there are, say, 10 potholes, we can use the monies to take the most significant ones and address the most significant risks first, and then as monies become available or if projects go under budget, we can then expand to address further potholes. And Bob can speak to this all better than I can, but that's kind of the intent behind this, is to phase out that one where we're addressing the priority needs with the grant monies or the funds we have available. And then as more monies become available, we can kind of phase out some of those lesser risk priorities for that project.
And then by the time we get around to the fifth or sixth pothole, they're that much bigger because we've had to put them off for a couple of years, and so then it costs more money than being able to do them all.
And this is a project that has been on the list for a couple years, and we have delayed some of the spend because during COVID, Bob was very conscious about our cash flow situation. And so this is one that has been on the list for a number of years.
Yeah.
And the next one on the list is the Five Corners pedestrian project. And so next year we are looking to go into construction. I know Bob mentioned earlier we did get one response to a bid that was significantly higher than we were anticipating. And so my understanding right now is what we're looking to do, and again, Bob can speak to this a lot better than I can, is look to identify what the priorities are of what we need to accomplish as far as construction, and if we have to phase out some of the goals of that project, we can do that and hopefully pursue grant funds to help pay for some of those costs. So for example, if putting in the sidewalks is the first step or priority, we could use the construction funds for that purpose and then phase in the traffic circles and the other elements of the project. And again, on the bottom, this one
Matt, real quick, these completion dates, is this, when we're starting the project? 'Cause it says June 30th, 2022.
That needs to be updated.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
I thought that was really cool, actually. Finally.
Ta-da, it's done. One thing just on this one, and this is just to kind of show how this document works, is there are two funding sources other than city funds that we're using to help pay for the Five Corners project. We do have an MTA grant, and that is, I believe, an 80-20 or thereabout match local funds to grant funds. And what we've been doing to cover the local funds piece is the city receives SB1 gas tax funds. And over the last few years, we've been dedicating those gas tax funds to this project as our local match. And so next year, we're estimating to receive about $90,000 in gas tax funds. And our plan is to use those gas tax monies to help cover our local match for this project. And so this is a good example of kind of how our goal is for the CIP plan as we develop it. So you'll be able to see what the planned spend is, as well as what the revenue sources are besides just general fund reserves to pay for it. 206 East Whitley remodel is the fourth project I have on the list that is planning to go into construction next fiscal year. So this one, again, is using Housing Authority funds for these costs, and it's focused on rehabbing the existing structure that I believe is 4 units or 5 units of low mod income housing. We do have a second housing project that is separate from this one, and that would be looking at the potential of building an additional structure on that property to house additional units.
And that went from, we designated, what, 350? And now it's up to 400 and something?
So again, this document's a working draft, but we are looking at having construction spend for this project. So I'll double check that number there. But this is a project we are looking to enter into construction this year, or this upcoming year. So the Green Pier repairs is the first of the harbor projects that I have included on this list. Again, this one made the list as it was identified as a emergency need for the city. We had some issues with some non-structural pilings that we are looking to contract out for those repairs. So again, this is a non-grant funded project, but this is a good example to show kind of what our plan is, how to use this CIP document on a multi-year basis. And so the emergency repairs will replace, I believe, 6 pilings, but there are other needed repairs to the Green Pier. And so as part of, in tandem with pursuing these emergency repairs, we're also working with the state to get a multi-year permit to be able to do some additional needed repairs to the structure. And so the goal is with this CIP document to not only plan in the current year what we're going to be spending, but show what our future anticipated needs are. And so while it would be difficult to, say, spend $1 million repairing the Green Pier, if we can phase out some of those repairs and tack on certain sections of the pier, you know, one plank at a time, if you will, it makes it a little easier to balance the budget and still maintain the pier in a good condition.
So when do we ask questions? Just as we move along, or are we going to go back?
Either way.
Okay, because this is kind of a thing for Bob. It seems like there was a discussion when we replaced Casino Dock, when they were going to do it years before, they said they should be concrete, and they didn't have enough money. And then we did them now. We didn't do concrete, and because we didn't have enough money. Are we going to replace pilings with something that's a little more lasting than wood?
So the scope of the current project is to replace in-kind. And so for permitting purposes, also if we want to, I guess, that's what we can afford at this date, you know, to be able to replace it in kind. It is a heavy maintenance activity. I think that we need to get into discussion beyond what I've said for the 5-year heavy maintenance activity that we'd have for the Green Pier, and that's just for replace in kind, because it's been a long time since we did a major project to that Green Pier.
Right.
And to make sure that it stands up for another 50 or so years, you know, we're going to need to put some significant funding into it.
I know. I think it's sad that it has to be wood, and we can't do something that even would last longer than wood.
Some of the permitting requirements from the Coastal Commission, it has to be the exact footprint of what is currently touching the seafloor right now.
Yeah.
So it is Coastal Commission, whether they want to, and I can't speak for them, but whether they just see the Green Pier go away. I think there could be some members of the Coastal Commission would say that would be fine. At least the way that it seems that they give permits out, you know, that.
Yeah.
Okay, so otherwise, what you see in this project is just to do the heavy maintenance that we can't accomplish with our own staff, even though we do accomplish a lot of things with it.
Oh, no, I totally understand that. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the next one on the list is the pump out dock, and this one made the 7 because it is a grant funded project. So this one, if you go down the list, we have the harbor master as the project manager, and again, we're looking to start construction in the upcoming fiscal year and complete the project during the next fiscal year. And so to date, we have spent $37,936 on permitting and planning related engineering documents. And the majority of the funds we're looking at spending on construction. This is a good example of this one. I tried to tie out what we have in the budget with the granting agency as far as construction inspection and contingency as well. And another good example of this one is, once we have this new pump out float, we will in theory be spending more each year maintaining this new piece of infrastructure or equipment. And so as we're planning our O&M budgets in the harbor, this is a new asset that we'll then have to, maintain. And again, on the bottom, you can see it's a partially grant funded with the Department of Boating and Waterways. And the last one on the list is the fuel tank replacement. And so this one is in the fuel dock fund, which rolls up into the harbor fund. And so this is replacing the existing underground fuel tank and putting in a new tank that is going to be an above ground tank to meet with certain state requirements. So this one is partially grant funded as well. We've spent to date about $50,000 on preliminary engineering and planning related to this, and we are looking probably not until the second half of next fiscal year, so probably this time next year, going into the kind of the construction phase, if you will, for that project. We right now anticipate the project to cost about $750,000, and $475,000 right now would be covered with that grant, with the remaining amount coming from the harbor capital fund. So then the last one on the list is a vehicle replacement schedule. So I've been working with all of the department heads to build out a vehicle replacement schedule. One thing we historically have not done, or at least not since I've been at the city, is set aside adequate funds each year to replace our existing vehicle. And so it's important that with each budget, we are setting aside money so we can make sure we have a fleet that is current and able to respond to the needs of the community. So I want to thank Chief Alegria for getting me his list, but right here is the summary sheet for the fire department's vehicle replacement. And so what I've done here is right now in the vehicle replacement schedule, any of the engines or the ladder truck would be on a 15-year replacement cycle once the new vehicle is in, and the other vehicles on a 10-year replacement cycle. The challenge is we have a fairly old fleet currently, and getting caught up to this cycle would involve replacing a number of vehicles in the next 5 years or so. And again, I do want to caveat this is a working draft, and these numbers may change when we present it to council, but on the next page is a breakdown of the vehicles in our fire fleet. I've asked Chief to provide me with an estimate of what he thinks the remaining life of those vehicles is. Again, this is an estimate, but if we were to follow this schedule as it is listed here, in the next 2 fiscal years, we'd need to set aside almost $900,000 each year in order to replace the 2 vehicles that Chief has identified as needing to be replaced in the next 2 years. As you can see, once we start replacing vehicles and we start setting aside monies each year, it's not quite as daunting of a figure. The next, say, years 3 to 5 are closer to $500,000 a year we would need to be setting aside. And then by the time we have a fleet fully on this replacement schedule, we still would need to be setting aside $350,000 a year or so in order to have the monies available to replace those pieces of equipment on a 10 or 15-year replacement schedule. So as you can see, this is just the fire department's replacement schedule. $875,000 of general fund monies is not a small amount for our city's capital program. But if we were to we need to be setting aside more than we are. And again, maybe we can look at some of those remaining years and we can make some changes. We are pursuing grant funds. So again, this isn't necessarily what the final draft is going to show, but if we weren't to pursue any grant funds and based on kind of the useful life as presented to me, that's what we would need to be setting aside in the next 2 budgets of nearly $1 million to fully fund those vehicle replacement. And, you know, that doesn't consider the list Public Works has for me or the list the Harbor has me as far as their vehicle replacement schedule goes. I think fire's going to be the largest of those 3 units, if you will, but you know, that is one of the challenges we have is as a city, we haven't been fully funding vehicle replacement. It's been more of a as-needed basis, but I think it would be prudent if we can start setting aside monies each year, even if it's not, even if we're not able to do the full 900,000 next year. It's important that in the upcoming budget, we do have a significant amount of money set aside for vehicle replacement. So it's definitely positive, the revenue news that I presented, but there are a lot of expensive capital needs facing the city as we've deferred certain projects and deferred some more intense maintenance, as well as needing to set more monies aside to replace our current equipment. So that's kind of a taste of what the CIP plan is going to look like when we present the budget for adoption. I'm happy to share the draft of the plan, but a good source to look at is the CIP plan that was presented as part of last year's budget. The vast majority of these projects were included in last year's budget, and really the only difference is if we haven't spent the funds this year, we're rolling those funds over into the next year's budget, and there are a few projects that didn't necessarily have monies in the current budget year, but we had planned in this year to have some spend for those projects. So that's a good resource to look at. Again, I'm happy to share a draft, but it is still a working draft of our CIP plan that we will be presenting in June for adoption.
And you will be attaching the other vehicles for the other departments as well?
Yes.
Okay. And so roadway and alley resurfacing, because it's also a safety issue as well as an eyesore. I don't know if something could be put in there. I think we need to have a program for that to start at some point. And I think Edison should be involved in it too, because they do some of the damage to our roads as well. And I don't know if they pay us when they dig holes, and I don't know how that works.
So we do receive monies when they do, we do invoice them when they do have to cut into our streets. I've gone back to the kind of the CIP summary page, if you will, and in the next year's budget from the Street Administration Fund, we do have 50,000 right now set aside for street repair pothole projects, but as I'm sure you're aware, 50,000 doesn't cover too much. And where we get those monies and why we dedicate it to that is that's the other half of the gas tax monies we receive. So we receive about 80,000 from the highway use tax and another 80 or 90,000 from SB1. And so we do have some monies every year in the budget. And so if we don't spend those monies, we can accumulate that balance up to then have more of an impactful project. But there are some monies set aside. But you know, if roadway needs are a priority, we can make sure that our plan is addressing that.
Was just making sure that when we start getting into 2030 and later that we're looking at the electrification of the fleet as well. Just with 2035 being the sunset of purchasing new vehicles that are gas fueled, that just be a part of the consideration that may increase it slightly or potentially decrease it because of the overall fuel cost, but that it just be part of that consideration.
It is definitely something we need to look at. So we did look at the cost of what we expect their vehicle replacement, but I know just from some of the transit conversations I've been in, you know, buses that say cost $100,000, the electric version is $1 million piece of equipment. And so, you know, I think a lot will change in the next 5-10 years as far as electrical vehicle costs, but it is something that we should factor in. And so if our estimates are too low, we may need to increase, you know, what our replacement cost is for those.
Yeah.
I'm not too proud to beg, and I think, you know, I don't know why we don't solicit people for vehicles, because no harm, no foul, and as a demonstration vehicle too. So I think it would be nice if we could kind of look in that direction.
Yeah, I saw a Rivian at the Long Beach airport last week, if anyone's seen those vehicles yet. It is a trip and a half and all electric or I think they might even have hydrogen fuel cell, but if there's any companies that want to sponsor a really great city with a lot of people visiting,
No?
Give us a call.
I'm sure they're not
Matt,
listening.
I have a
but-
question for you. I know this is probably more of a maintenance thing, but for the green pier repairs, do we have any funds to do the bathrooms on there? Or do we plan on doing that?
We don't have those in the plan, but, you know, if that is a priority, that is something we should have in our 10-year CIP schedule. So even if we're not spending monies next year, that's the type of thing we'd like to see included in the CIP. So we can definitely put that in the CIP plan. And
Please.
if it is a true priority to where, you know, we want to spend some monies next year, we can look at that as well. But that's a good example of something we need to have included in our CIP document to make sure it's on staff's radar.
And I guess those porta potties that they were put in the 80s at Machine Gun Park, I don't know if we're ever I don't know if that gets so expensive, because then you gotta make them handicap accessible, and that whole park is not handicap accessible. But, other than if you go around walk on the road, I guess they seem to be doing okay. I don't get, Bob, are those?
So one of the
Well, I
challenges.
know that, yeah.
So we definitely like to pursue grant funding, you know, where possible. One of the challenges is if we don't have a long-term lease on certain properties, it makes getting grant funds for those types of improvements a little more difficult. That's not to say we couldn't use our own funds for those projects.
Right.
But that is one of the challenges with some of our leased properties.
I know. Well, when we built that little office when I was there, it only cost $25,000. And the value of that over the years wasn't much, so it was like that was okay. But the bathrooms could probably cost us $270,000 or something, which, yeah. And I guess that's a year-to-year lease we have with the Island Company. It's just a...
And that project actually is in our CIP plan. There just weren't any monies set aside just as far as priority in last year's budget. It didn't make the priority, but that is another good example of kind of the goal behind that CIP document is to have, you know, things that even if we don't necessarily have the money in the current year, opportunities for us to then pursue funds for those types of projects that are included in the plan. So like I said before, my goal really is right now and then also in the upcoming fiscal year, because it's a document that we can be updating and improving as the year goes on, is to make sure all those types of projects are included, even if we're not planning to spend money this year.
Right, yeah, that would be great. Okay. Questions, further questions? Do you have any questions coming in from our viewing audience? No?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the folks in the audience? Okay. Thank you. Once again, nailed it.
Thanks, Matt.
Now we'll turn to our consent calendar.
Thank you. All set, Matt? Okay. For the consent calendar tonight, we have approval of the May 3rd, 2022 regular council minutes. We have approval of disbursements for the April 25th, 2022 through May 6th, 2022, totaling $1,154,349.16. We have our ongoing findings to continue to hold remote teleconference, virtual city council meetings pursuant to Assembly Bill 361. That is to determine that the COVID-19 state of emergency as proclaimed by the governor still exists and has been considered by city council in deciding to continue to have teleconference meetings, and that the state or local officials have imposed recommended measures to promote social distancing in connection with COVID-19. And that as a result of the COVID-19 emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risk to the health or safety of attendees. Federal Grant Policies Procedures Manual, we're asking council to adopt the Federal Grant Policies and Procedures Manual as presented and reviewed by staff. The Avalon Harbor Waste Tank Pump Out Float Contract Price Increase, seeking approval for a contract price increase of $37,485 for the waste pump out and freshwater fill-up float replacement project with Diversified Composites Incorporated. Item 6, approve the resolution submitting supporting submittal of an application to the State California State Activity Transportation Grant Program Cycle 6. As approve the resolution supporting the ATP Cycle 6 grant application and approve the submittal of the ATP Cycle 6 grant application for the Five Corners project. And then finally, we have approval of additional one-time $50 commuter book subsidy for the month of June 2022, an extension of the regular $85 subsidy through December 31st, 2022. Seeking approval of an additional one-time $50 commuter subsidy book in order to maximize the use of the funds that we have and extend the existing $85 subsidy through the end of the calendar year.
Which is wonderful news if we approve it. Is there a motion or anything want to be pulled?
I'll make a motion to approve consent calendar items 1 through 7.
I'll second.
Okay, moved in second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Aye.
Councilmember Lavelle?
Aye.
Councilmember Ponce?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Cassidy?
Aye.
Mayor Marshall?
Aye. Great. General business.
Thank you. For general business, we have consideration of transportation permit as filed by Sarah Mintz and Juan Saldana, a DBA Avalon local tour. This is seeking discuss and provide direction to staff if a consensus of council to approve. If approval is reached, to make the affirmative finding that the criteria set forth in the Avalon Municipal Code section 5-14.04 has been met.
Does anybody have any questions of Sarah or Juan? I just have one question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that you've already contacted the island company, get permission to ride on the roads, or?
I was waiting for the transportation permit.
Okay. But just wanted to make sure. Because a lot of people don't understand that they have to get permission from the island company to use their roads, so I just.
I'm sorry, Councilmember, just for the record, can we, I couldn't hear that answer, so I'm sure if there's any public watching, they couldn't hear it either. If you could just clarify the response.
Oh, yeah, I'm
from
sorry.
Whoever you spoke to.
Come on up, Sarah.
We'll do that.
Yes, we are getting clearance, hopefully, for the transportation permits, and then we will be seeking permission from the island company.
And then regarding the two vehicles, one has a permit already. The
Yeah.
second needs to go still before the hearing officer, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I will have to say, I'd much rather than be getting a tour and be driven by somebody who knows where they're going, so they're not having to stop and look at their phone and look at a map. And also, you're teaching them all about Avalon, and Catalina, so that's nice.
Yeah.
The only comment that I have is obviously not pertaining to you, but the right time to bring it up. I have received 2 complaints on current operators, whether they're true or not, I don't know, but that they're serving alcohol or offering alcohol in containers. And I just want to put out there that that's obviously not okay. And that, the fact that somebody's saying it means that something may look suspicious. So I would just ask current operators and that anyone else wanting to come in, but I also agree with Annie. I think it's better to have a guide than it is to send them loose.
And so then I have another question. Are there still bars that are giving drinks to go in popper cups?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't think we have, but they are actually able to. They have to apply first.
I mean, it stopped after COVID was over. They're not supposed
But
to.
they just can't take the alcohol. They have to be taking food with them.
Yeah, it's still
Yeah,
food,
it's
like
still
a
food has to
order
be
with
involved.
Okay.
And it's open container if they're drinking it, obviously.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Okay, great. Cool. Okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Oh, we have to call for the
Yeah.
vote.
Oh, wait.
We have to make a motion and.
Oh, make a motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
And ask if there's any questions first.
I just had one question too, by the way. Originally, I know with the current operator that does tours on golf carts, there had been a restriction regarding not utilizing the primary parking area at the mall, but being able to utilize or not utilize floats 4 and 5, I believe, was allowed, correct? That area space is allowed. So similar to this would be the same. And then at some point would just like to bring back the use of that space in conjunction with the mole project to discuss how that space is currently being used and how it can be used in the future to be a little better.
Right.
So.
Okay.
I just want to say that I actually had the pleasure of working with Juan and Sarah for a long time, and I've seen how hard they work, so
Yeah.
I'm very
Absolutely.
excited for you.
We want to show people a good time and
Yes.
keep them coming back year after year.
I know
Maybe
you will.
even take a couple wiki whackers off the road.
And then I just want to make sure that they're also required to follow the same requirements that the previous currently have.
Operators, yeah.
Well, which is a question, because, and this isn't necessary for you, but maybe for law enforcement. In golf carts, are you really only supposed to have 2 people in each seat, or is it many that you can, many bottoms as you can fit?
Into a golf cart?
Yes.
It's the allocated.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry.
If I understand the question, it's an allocated seat that's designated for a passenger and/or has a seatbelt. So not all of our golf carts have seatbelts, but it's however many seatbelts you have in a particular golf cart and/or a designated seat.
Okay,
for
so
someone
on
to
those
sit.
3-seaters, it's 6 people.
So just an example, a 2-seater golf cart, you do not put 4 people in it, which I have seen. And a 4-seater golf cart, you don't put 6 people in.
Lap riding
Yeah.
is not allowed.
Right, okay. All right, thank you. And I guess they also have to do, if you have a kid, you've got to get the car seat and all
Or the
that,
booster, yeah.
Okay.
And then off-street parking for both as well as commercial permits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have the off-street parking secured, and then the other vehicle will be our personal vehicle.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And then just a question on the second one that you're gonna get, with the vehicle hearing officer. That one, just making sure that it does fit within the length of the vehicle, the limo size?
Yes, we're going to be purchasing it from Yamaha here, so they say it may be a year out, but we're on the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we
If
have
you want to
one
get
that-
an electric
is
one, that would
modified.
be awesome
That's
too.
what I'm wondering, how long it is. Yeah.
Now's the time, right?
That's what
What?
I'm wondering, yeah.
What are too long?
I would just encourage you to check before you purchase, to make sure the length fits within the
Vehicle
city
permit
sticker
length.
limits.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
Which we just increased, so.
Right.
How many inches is that?
I'll follow up with you via.
Yeah,
I'll follow
I
up.
can guess.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's been a,
I'll make a motion to approve. I'm sorry, I just don't like the way that this, to approve and make affirmative finding that the criteria set forth in the Avalon Municipal Code, Section 514.04, has been met, and authorize the transportation permit for Sarah Mintz and Juan Saldana.
I'll second.
you're going to second? If there's no comments on the machine or in the audience, call for the vote.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Aye.
Councilmember Lavelle?
Aye.
Councilmember Ponce?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Cassidy?
Aye.
Mayor Marshall?
Aye.
Congratulations, you guys.
Yeah,
Good luck.
good luck. If you need drivers, let us know. No, I wasn't soliciting a job for myself. Come on. Okay, well, that is it for today's folks, so, meeting's adjourned.
Good night, Tony.
Thank you.